Yay! Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. So I'm reinstating, or going to try to reinstate, Mobility Monday, which is a series I started a couple years ago when I started this account. So if you have any questions about mobility, movement, anything health or wellness related, but honestly, movement, exercise, go ahead and leave them below and I'd be happy to answer. Hello guys, thanks for joining. If you're just joining, today we're going to be doing Mobility Monday, which is a series I used to do a long time ago. So if you have any movement related questions, go ahead and leave them below. And if you don't know me, hello, my name is Jo and I am a trainer and movement specialist here in Austin, Texas. I help people with this stuff all day, every day, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. So if you have any aches, pains, tightness, or tension, or maybe you just want some questions answered from a trainer about anything related to health and wellness, go ahead and pop that below for me. Hello, I see some of my clients. Hello, John, hello. Yay, I love when I see people I know. Hey guys, this is Mobility Monday, so if you have any mobility questions, pop them down below and we can move a little bit together. I have some props with me if we need, so ask me, give me some questions. A lot of people deal with shoulder pain, we have neck pain. If you want any of those, go ahead and leave me a comment. Knee pain. If you have any more specific questions, I would be happy to answer. Hello. All right, guys, ask me your questions. I could just start moving, but honestly, I would rather answer some questions for you today. Hello, I see another one of my clients. Welcome, Lydia. Hi, Kelly. If you have any mobility questions, feel free to leave them below. I'm trying to do and reinstate my Mobility Mondays here on Instagram. Oh, hi, Lydia. You're so sweet. She's my favorite. Well, I can't say that. I don't have any favorites, but if I had a top 5, she would be in it. Oh, I love y'all. Hello, I see a couple people that I've worked with or trained today. So if you have any mobility questions, go ahead and put those down below. I'm trying to get on here. Let's hold me accountable every Monday, at least through December, and answer some questions for you. It could be anything about your mobility. Ooh, crunchy hips. I like that question. Thank you, Kelly. So we talked a little bit about that on my stories a couple weeks ago. And a lot of people do experience some crunchy sensation around multiple joints in their body. But let's talk a little bit about why that is and what might be helpful to you. So crunchy hips, if you bring your hip in or you move your hip around, you might feel a crunching or snapping sensation. And a lot of the times what you're feeling when that is occurring is you're feeling some knots in your fascia moving when you move that hip around. And the reason why that happens is that over time, when you don't move all 360 degrees, because your hip is a ball and socket and it can move all the way around 4 directions. And if it's not moving that way, over time, the muscles involved in those actions spasm. And then over time, this knots the fascia, which is this connective tissue that runs through and in between your muscles. And over time, it basically is telling the body, hey, Kelly hasn't used that in a while. So over time, the brain is thinking that it is advantageous to your survival to limit that range of motion. So over time, you get all of these knots that come in and around your hip joint that create that crunchy sensation when you move that hip around. Sorry, I'm just using your name. I don't know if you're if you're asking about you, but you have knots in the way when you move it around. And what I teach and how I train people here in Texas is we do movements that are specific to the joint that help undo those knots in the fascia, rewire your connection the neural pathways from your brain to that muscle. Because what happens when you have a lot of knots is that your brain can't even activate the muscles well. So over time, it just leads to more and more restriction. But with certain movements and release work and mobility, we're able to rewire that connection to that area of your body. If we're talking about the hip, the muscles around the hip, and then we're able to do work on the connective tissue, the fascia, the tendons, and the ligaments to help strengthen and tell your body that that range of motion is safe again. Because a lot of the times the body just does things to keep you safe. So it's creating those knots in your fascia because it's like, hey, you don't use those, you don't need them, and you're probably not stable or strong using them. So we're going to shut that down. So by using these training methods to optimize that joint range of motion in the muscles and the connective tissue, we can undo the knots, we can open up the fascia, and we can make it so that you're able to neurally activate your muscle, and then the body is able to sense how to use that hip correctly in space all the way around. So long story short, we use mobility training methods to help undo movement-related restrictions that cause that crunchy snapping is a really common one. You'll hear snapping at the front of the hip sensation that a lot of people notice. Hello, Diane. Hello, Chris. I see a lot of people that I recognize. But yeah, crunchy hips, and it works pretty similar with any joint in your body. A lot of people feel crunchiness in the shoulders. Hello, Callie. Hello. So many people I know. Thank y'all for joining. But yeah, it works very similar with the shoulders, except that sometimes, same with the hip. So we can have parts of our spine in not the right positioning. We can have, say we have a little bit of an anterior pelvic tilt, so your pelvis is stuck in a particular position where it's anteriorly rotated. That can cause restriction in the front of the hip because you physically have less space. That also works the same way with your shoulder. When your shoulders are a little bit forward, we actually have physically less space between your shoulder, the top of it, and your collarbone. So that alone can cause a pinching or a crunching sensation. So essentially, no matter what we do in whatever joint we're talking about, we also have to address the spine surrounding it. That's where I feel like a lot of people forget. But if we can't get the shoulders in the correct position, if I can't get your pelvis in the correct position, I could do even your rib cage. I could do all the mobility in the world, and you would still have crunching and in the front of your hip, and you would probably still have restriction in whatever area that was. So we have to address the spine because all muscles attach or insert to the spine. So spine is a lot of the times where I start with most of my clients these days because that's where most people need. Thank you. This answers some questions about my crunchy shoulder. Ooh, yeah, very similar. I'm happy that helped. Yay, I'm glad you're here. So I always tell people who are dealing with that crunchy or pinchy sensation when they're raising their arm overhead, that firstly, we need to, so when we're here, and this is forward, your back muscles are lengthened, and also your back muscles aren't as, when your muscles are lengthened, your brain needs a lot stronger signal to activate. And then the opposite's the case for your chest because of postural problems. All of these are shortened and they're already contracted because they're in a shortened position. So these need less, they need a less of an impulse to contract. So the first thing we need to do if we're stuck in those positions is we need to stretch the chest, maybe even do some myofascial release for the chest, even the muscles of the back, and we need to get some of those muscle imbalances to chill out a little bit, either through stretching or release work. Most of the times my clients will do both. And then we also need to be able to move our shoulder blades well, so that talks about the spine. We need to be able to use our thoracic spine well. And then once we have the spine moving well and we've released some muscles on the front, the chest and the back, I have my clients learn how to use and breathe correctly into their ribs, into their back, because a lot of the reasons, so when we're in this position all the time, we're never getting that rib cage to fully expand. And if the rib cage can't fully expand correctly, all four directions, the front, the sides, the back, then those muscles are also not getting blood flow. They're not, you could even see it as oxygen, but like we're not getting movement back there. Any tissue that doesn't have movement, doesn't get that breath, is not as easily connected neurally to the body. So we work on breath, and then after those things, we've stretched, we've done some mobility work, then we're able to strengthen the shoulder in all four ways it moves, because just like the hip joint, The shoulder joint is actually the most mobile joint in your body. It has the most range of motion possible, which means is we need to strengthen it here, we need to strengthen it here, we need to strengthen it behind you. All 4 ways it moves, and then we can see some symptom. We can see less crunchy shoulder symptoms. So it's a long process, but also not really if you have the right plan to follow and you have the right coach to take you through this. Hello, Jenna. This is a common thing that I help people a lot with. People come to me and think they have shoulder impingements, but most of the time it's just some normal postural problems that make the shoulder feel restricted. And with a little bit of soft tissue work and stretching, plus moving that shoulder again in all the directions it can move, we can see a lot of relief. And no, nothing is, hello, Eloise, hello. She's my favorite. And once we strengthen that in all the directions as it moves and consistently implement that, you're able to see lasting relief from this. And then when you have it come up again, you know what to do. But when we first start in any kind of protocol to help improve range of motion, you're going to have to be a little bit consistent with it. Do it every day, ideally, or as often as you can. And ideally before your workout, because if you're having any kind of movement restrictions, we'll take them into the workout. So it's important to do a little bit of things before you train, so that way the body is able to activate and use things. And then you can use your workout to help keep you more mobile. But we first have to access the mobility and then we can train it. So I hope that was helpful. That was my really long-winded explanation about crunchiness in your shoulder. Basically, it's a lot of things. Soft tissue work, stretching, being able to breathe correctly. No one breathes correctly these days. And then addressing the spine. And then finally, we can do range of motion work in all the directions your shoulder moves. To open up the soft tissue, to open up the fascia, to even strengthen connective tissue and the muscles that surround the joint, so these issues don't keep coming back. Aw, Chris. Thank you. Yes. He was really fun. That was really fun. He's one of my best students. Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of times your shoulders aren't impinged. You just have normal quality of life, normal modern life stuff that we can address with movement. Yeah, dude, most people are breathing wrong. Ooh, let's do a little breath work exercise. Let's do a little breath work. If you want to do this, it's a lot easier laying on your back, but I'm going to show you seated up because or else you're not going to be able to see me. So when I have clients, what I'll have them do is I'll have them lie down, so you could do that with me as I'm talking. But you'll take one hand, and I always do my left hand, you don't have to, and you're gonna place it right around the front of your rib cage, and then your other hand, you're gonna place it on your low stomach. From there, you're either sitting up on something that allows your posture to be good, or you're laying on your back, or you can even be up against the wall to have something support your spine, but we wanna find spinal alignment. So one hand here, shoulders are relaxed. You're gonna inhale through your nose, and when you inhale through your nose, I want you to think about expanding in the front of your ribs, the side of your ribs, but also filling up, if you're on the floor or on the wall, into that back side of your ribs. So big inhale, we're gonna breathe into all 4 directions in through your nose, front, sides, back. And then on the exhale, you're gonna let out all of your air, and this is a lot easier if you're on the floor, and I always teach my clients some rib cage mobility here. So we're gonna think about bringing our ribs back and pulling our belly button into spine. So let's do a couple more of those together. Big inhale, expand front, side, back. Exhale, ribs are gonna pull back behind you. Now, you don't have to breathe all this all the time. This is just to mobilize your rib cage. Let's do one that are just normal. Inhale, you're gonna breathe into all 4 directions. And then exhale, you're gonna let it go. And even if you just were to breathe like this at your desk or to take a couple moments, you could help your posture, literally just doing this, keeping your shoulders nice and relaxed. Inhale, breathe in all 4 sides, front, side, and back. And when you do that, you might feel your back stretching. You might even feel your core activating quite a bit, because in order to breathe correctly, we have to use a lot of the muscles of our core. We have this weight belt muscle, I always tell people, that's called your TVA, that runs all the way around. So the way that we activate it is by breathing. So if you breathe front, side, and back, I'm activating it all around my body. It's that same thing if you've ever lifted really heavy. If you're about to squat or deadlift, that's that same breath that we want to take. And then exhale, you can let it go out your nose, out your mouth. Because a lot of times when I check people's breathing, this is how we're breathing. They're breathing into their chest, and when they breathe into their chest, my shoulders are raising, and I can even feel my jaw tensing when I breathe like that. And that's how most people breathe. But then if we keep breathing like that for a really long period of time, we're making upper body posture distortions worse. We're making our forward shoulder worse. And we're also telling our body that we're stressed. So over time, this is just creating a stress response, and it's making your body feel like unsafe for you to be in. So just taking a couple moments, finding some big breaths in your rib cage, it could help your core, it could help your stress. And I help my clients build on top of this, and we learn some stuff to like mobilize the rib cage and the pelvis while we do it, because it can help you activate really deeply your core, which you can use in all other lifts, all other mobility exercises, and you can get a lot more out of them that way. Woohoo! Hopefully that was helpful. That was a really long-winded answer to that. But yeah, most people don't breathe very well. Any more questions for me, guys? Hello, it's been fun chatting already. We're reinstating, or I'm gonna try to reinstate, y'all should hold me accountable. No, I'll hold myself accountable. Mobility Monday. So this is where I just answer some questions you have about movement or mobility. I help a lot of people get out of pain and find movement freedom here in Austin, Texas, and I would be happy to help you. Ask me some questions. Ask me some questions. Hello, hello. Hello, guys. It's cool seeing all my old clients and current clients and friends on here. If y'all have any other questions to ask me, go ahead and leave them below. I'm going to hang out for another 5 minutes. Ooh, good question. Good question. I like it. Can knee pain be caused by reduced hip mobility? Yes, definitely. Definitely. Ooh, let's talk about knees. Knees are really fun. Yes. So a lot of the times when we're talking about knee-related pain, we're looking at the joints surrounding it. For most people, it's restriction in your hips. And most people, it's restriction in your feet too. So it's not just one or the other. I'd say 90% of people that I see and I address their movement and do mobility screening on have feet that don't move very well, ankles don't move very well, and hips that don't move very well. So it's typically 50-50. I don't see most people where they're none. They're all on one and all on the other. So yeah, a lot of the time it is your foot and your ankle. And so I'll start with the foot. So the foot, that was a part of the body that most people do not train. And then we also wear shoes with really large heels. So over time, we're losing activation from the brain to be able to use the intrinsic muscles that run on the bottom and top of your feet. And over time, so your foot bones or your ankle bones, your foot bones. So if your feet muscles don't move and activate correctly, your ankle won't work well. And then when your ankle doesn't work well, the body will send those, so muscles spasm, and that's what creates knots in the fascia. That will happen with the muscles of your calf and ankle, and even with your foot. We've all had muscle spasms in the foot. You've all had those foot cramps before. I know you have, me included. And what that's doing, the brain is saying, hey, you don't move these very much. Let me make sure you really don't move these, because clearly you're not using them. And so it's restricting your range of motion more at your foot and at your ankle. So it's really important to spend time paying attention to your feet. Your toes should move. Your big toes should be able to move independently of the other toes. And then you might have some positional things. So A lot of people who've had a bunch of ankle sprains, they get this bone that positions in front of the ankle. And I've had a lot of ankle sprains. I used to be a runner. And that bone, kind of like the fascia, is when you had a lot of pain or sprains, it will position in front of your ankle joint, and it will restrict your mobility with your ankle joint. So there's actually joint mobilizations that sometimes are needed for the ankle. So yeah, we want to get the foot to move well. We want the toes to move independently. We want the big toe to be able to move independently. And then the hip. If the hip is tight, we can feel tension all the way down the quad. And then if we're walking and running, one of the main things that we're doing is we're extending the hip. And I noticed that a lot of my clients who have knee pain, and also me included, who have knee injuries, I didn't have very good hip extension, and that would cause a lot of my knee pain. So yeah, hello, Mikey, hello. So yeah, it can be caused by both of those things. And then also the knee has its mobility of its own. It is a hinge joint, so it has much less mobility than your hip or your ankle does. But it has about 20 to 30 degrees, maybe it's 15 to 30 degrees of rotation either way. Most people, their knee is locked in one direction. So your knee and your shin should be able to move. If you put your hand on front of your knee, you should be able to move your shin independently of your hip. And if you can't do that, it means you're not doing that. And that means when you're squatting and moving, it's not moving. And that means your knee is lacking mobility. So yeah, ankle, hip, you can have knee issues. And then also I've had knee issues. And one of the things that come with that is not being able to extend the knee properly. So you'll see a lot in rehab things. They'll work on getting the knee to extend. It's called terminal knee extension. And then along with all of those things, getting the joints of the knee, the ankle, and the hip to move again, most people need progressive strength training of the muscles of the lower body to get out of their knee pain too. So it's not just focused on the joint. Like I've had a knee injury and I had to get my body used to squatting on high chair. I had to get my body used to squatting on a lower chair. I had to work all the way down. I had to repattern lunges. I had to repattern everything because your brain just goes off of what it knows and it wants to keep your body safe. So if you've had an injury or pain for a long time, it's going to restrict your movement so you don't hurt yourself. It thinks it's being helpful. Everything's out of your safety. So over time, through slow, consistent progression, you're able to get this to go away. And a lot of the times most of the time, y'all, we can only get more mobility once we've worked on joint function by strength training. So knees, ankle, knee mobility, hip mobility, and progressive strength training, lunges, squats, etc. for the lower body. Really good question that sent me on a tangent for a while. I hope that answers your question. Hey Mikey, do you have any questions for me on movement today, or does anyone else have more questions about mobility? I'm doing an Ask Me Monday, what do I call these? Mobility Monday. And I want to answer any questions you have about your mobility or your movement. Yay, you're welcome. Hopefully that helped. A good place to start for most people is getting a joint assessment done. So if you don't know what are you, I guarantee it could be a little bit of all three. For most people it is. It's good to have someone address your joint functions so you know specifically what's going on in your body. That way you're not just doing hundreds of random exercises online. I'm someone who can do that, so if you want that and ever need help with any of that, I do have that available, so shoot me a DM and we can chat a little bit more about that. Yay. Hello, answer your questions. If you have any mobility questions, go ahead and pop those below and I would be happy to answer. We just asked and answered. I just answered a really long answer about knee pain. And if you have any other questions, please pop them below. You don't want to oversimplify things or undersimplify. It helps to have somebody who is an expert like me look at you and look at you move. Basically, no one can give you specific answers to any of these things unless they've seen that. And if they tell you that, they're probably lying. So get assessed is my biggest recommendation. I do assessments all day at Lifetime North here in Austin, Texas. But if you want to do something virtually, shoot me a DM and we can chat a little bit more about that too. Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Ooh, how do you typically do release work on a forearm like golfer's elbow? Ooh, really common, really common. Yeah, that one has a couple of different answers too. So this one, it's really hard to do on yourself. And so we can kind of talk about why that is. Your forearm does have mobility because your elbow joint has mobility. Your elbow joint is very similar to your knee in the fact that it doesn't really have a lot of range of motion. The shoulder has most of the range of motion of the arm, but it does have some limits. That looks about 20 to 30 degrees for me. So it has a little bit of mobility too. And a lot of the times if my clients are feeling their forearm or their elbow or have tennis elbow related symptoms, it can be because of a couple things. It can be because the shoulder isn't rotating correctly, which is really common. A lot of people, that was one of the first things they lose, especially when we have a little bit of forward shoulder. And then the other thing that can be happening is that you can get referred tension from the wrist. And then the third thing that I do see quite often with my clients, because most of my clients work at a desk, is that it's nerve-related sensation. It's not muscular at all. So let's kind of start with release work and what that would talk about. So it can either be from the shoulder, it could be from the wrist, or it could be nerve-related sensation coming from the neck. Most of the time for my clients. So one of the things I will do, maybe I can do it on myself here to show you, is you can grab, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to show y'all. So I'm going to make a fist, and it'd be much better if someone did this on you. I do this at Lifetime North, and you're going to find, so I'm going to grab both sides of the forearm, and I'm just going to kind of start around the elbow, and I'm going to kind of work that tissue down while I do a couple of this. So I'm just going to bring that fist really softly up and down, and I'm going to grab both sides of the forearm and kind of release it down as my client will move their fist like that. I'll do that for each point that I feel. Maybe I'll pause on a point and have them do a little bit of that. But that honestly tends to work really well. And then you can kind of do the same thing with the elbow. Again, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it on myself. It's really hard to do on yourself. I would get in to see a good massage therapist or someone like me. You can grab the part of your elbow where there's tension, muscular like that. That's my bicep right there. And then you can kind of mobilize the joint. So you can take little bitty circles and kind of release the joint and go both directions. And you can feel then after, I typically do about 20 to 30 of those really tiny both ways. Again, it's better if someone does this on you. I do all this stuff on myself, and it would be a lot easier if someone did it on me. But yeah, I can already feel just a little bit of relief. So you can mobilize your elbow joint. You can release your forearm by grabbing. You can do both sides and kind of do a couple of these. But that's a really good thing for a massage therapist to do. And then you want to check your shoulder. So sometimes it's rotational capacity of the shoulder. Sometimes it's because of stuff going on with your neck because your shoulders are raised. So a lot of the times if someone's complaining of elbow pain, I will release their forearm. I will do an elbow mobilization on them first. I'll stretch their chest. I'll stretch their arm in all the directions it moves. I'll stretch their lat. I'll do a shoulder mobilization too. And then we'll head over and I'll make sure the shoulder is in a good position because a lot of the times they're a little higher. So actually, I think I've done this one with you, Chris. I'll get you in a position with your elbow nice and bent, or even just starting with a chest stretch on a wall with the elbow bent. And we can hang out here, but then we can also build strength here. So you can think about pressing your fists down and then pulling that joint apart in both directions. And we can do that a couple times isometrically, and we can get the shoulder to sit down. And then once we do that, I have my clients do some nerve related work for the shoulder. Some stuff that kind of looks like this with the ribs in. We talk a little bit about rib cage mobility. And with the combination of all of those three things, getting the shoulders to come down a little bit, releasing the forearm, really mobilizing the elbow, mobilizing the shoulder, stretching the chest and stretching the upper body, plus everything I just mentioned, and then focusing on the nerves, I can get a lot of that sensation and tension to go away around the elbow. Oh, and if we didn't do that, and this could be totally the case for you too, most people it is while I'm doing their shoulder, I also do stuff for the wrist. I stretch the wrist. You could do all of those wrist mobility ones you've probably seen me do in all directions. That can be really helpful. But yeah, it kind of depends on you and your body. If I could get you on the table, I could kind of see what would be going on. But for most people, we're a little like this. and we need to get everything down again. We need to stretch all the areas, the upper body. We need to release the forearm, mobilize the elbow to shoulder, and then work on the nerves. Really long-winded answer. Hope that was helpful. Yeah, so get in to see a good massage therapist for some of those things, or someone like me, and it could be really helpful. And again, if you don't know why things are going on in your body and you'd like to know specifically, I do those all day here at Austin, Lifetime North here in Austin, or shoot me a DM and I'd be happy to talk about virtual options. If, Chris, if you just try to chest stretch with your elbow bent, I bet that would be really helpful for you. That's what I feel like I need to tell you right now. And you can do all three, a little higher shoulder height. Just keep your elbow bent, because I know you do the straight arm because I taught you that one, but just bend your elbow a little bit. I think that would be a really good place to start. Yay, happy it was, good. It's really cool to be able to talk to some people I've trained. All right, guys, I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes. My voice is getting a bit tired, so if you have any other questions for me about mobility, about movement, you could ask me any lifestyle related questions too. I'd be happy to help. Okay, guys, couple more minutes. If you have any questions about your movement, if you have any questions about mobility, about your exercise routine, or any questions that you'd like to ask a trainer, go ahead and pop them below. I'm gonna give them a couple more minutes and then I'll hop off. Hello, hello. Ooh, yay. Hello, guys. Couple more minutes. Thank you all for joining so much today. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm really happy to anyone who joined. Ooh, how important are shoes? Everyone is wearing super thick Hokas right now. They're really important. They're really important. And the thick shoe trend, though I do think it is really cute as well, is really not good for our feet. Well, okay, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's kind of talk. Let me grab one of my shoes here so that way you can kind of see what's going on. So if we're wearing shoes with really high heels, like high heels, that's going to make it so that we're not able to use the muscles of our toes very well in our feet, which is totally okay. If you spend enough time barefoot, if you can take off the shoes and focus on your foot health, I won't tell you to not wear the cute, thick, chunky shoes. But what happens if we spend all of our time in the thick, chunky shoes is that we lose the ability to use some of the muscles in our feet, and where it's really detrimental. So if I'm not so mad about my clients walking around with them, but training in them is a really not great thing to do. Because if we can't use the muscles in our feet really well, it means we can't use our ankles very well. And that's gonna affect just our activation from our brain to our leg muscles, from our brain to our feet, and it's gonna hinder some of our movement patterns. So a lot of the things, if you wanna wear the cute shoe, go ahead. Don't forget to move your toes, big toe independently, stretch your feet, spend some time barefoot. But for training, I have my clients opt for a 0 drop or minimal drop shoe. That's gonna be my favorite. So you can see that this one does have a bit of a sole. This is my favorite running shoe. I actually do not run on completely minimal shoes anymore since my knee injury. I feel like my knees have taken enough of a pounding. But one thing you'll see here is that the toe and the heel, they're on the same level. And Ultra does a really good job at a lot of their shoes at making, they call this one's 0 drop or minimal drop. I think somewhere between 6 to 4 millimeters is called a minimal drop shoe. And when we're training, we want this to be in line with this so we can use the muscles of our toes. And that's important because when we use the muscles of our toes, that activates the intrinsic muscles that hold up our arch that keeps our feet healthy. It also helps us activate the muscles of our leg. Parts of your glute, quad, hamstring, everything. So you'll get better muscular activation. So if you're training, we want something that is flatter. Some people just opt for Converse or Vans. I don't really love a Converse or Vans because I think the toe box is small. Okay, so that's the other thing. We want a really wide toe box. You can see this one's kind of huge, and if you kind of look at it from the front, it kind of looks a little clowny. Same with this one here. But you want something wide because it allows the toes to spread. And if the toes can spread, you can use the muscles of your feet. And so, yeah, if you're training, we're looking for something with 0 to minimal drop. And if you don't have that and you don't want to wear that, I would just take it off for your leg exercises. It doesn't matter as much for upper body, but it kind of really does matter for lower, because you're just not you're not going to be able to access the musculature or the range of motion correctly. Over time, could lead to muscle imbalances and all those things that we've been talking about. I currently train in these. They're very minimal. I personally would not run in these for long distances because I've already put a number of miles in on these knees. But you can see these are very minimal. And again, you see how the heel and the toe are on the same line, or very close to the same line. There could be a little bit of a drop. Caveat, if you've never used or worn shoes that are more like this, it's going to feel really weird. So I suggest lowering down. So don't go to 0 drop right away. You could go 6, you could go 4, work your way down, because you probably are going to feel your feet for a little bit. You're going to feel them start to activate, which some people don't like. And it could cause a little bit of foot pain. It's really just muscle activation. But when I first started wearing barefoot shoes, I just went all in and I started running in them. And I basically was so sore after my first run that I could not walk for like a couple days. Don't be like me, or do. Trial by fire sometimes works. Now my feet don't hurt at all. But yeah, if you're training, especially leg day, wear something that's a little bit more minimal, 0 drop. And then if you do want that chunky shoe, wear it. They're freaking cute. I would too. Honestly, I have one pair, I think. Pay attention to your feet. Stretch your feet, move your toes, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Oh, I should mention that I'm an affiliate with this company, Zero. So if you want a discount, that is linked in my profile. I think it's 15%. Good question, Lydia. Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded. All right, guys. I'm going to give it 2 more minutes. I talked a little past. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any other questions for me, go ahead and pop them below. And I'm just going to make this a regular occurrence here on Monday. I really enjoyed the crowd here on Instagram. I will save this live for you to view later if you'd like. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. You should definitely check these out. You would really like those. But yes, I'm an affiliate, so if you want to support me. But yeah, I really enjoyed the crowd and the conversation today. So I'm going to try to be back every Monday, at least in December, because I can. And it's a really fun way to interact with you all. Okay, I'm going to give it 2 more minutes. If anyone wants to say anything, this is the time to say it. And then you'll see me next Monday. Okay. 1 more minute. Thank you to all that have joined. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to sign off. All right. So if you want to talk about any of this stuff specific to your body, because we talked about a lot of general things today, go ahead and shoot me a DM. I do work with people virtually and here in Austin, and so let me know how I can help, and I would be happy to set up some time to chat or meet with you here in Austin. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. Happy moving, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys. Bye, Lydia. Love you.